live. Woo! Good afternoon. I'm Mendelena Lewis. Welcome to She Bites Daily. And these are your major Me Too news up to noon. Canada's #1 hotel is under fire from employees for systemic sexual harassment and age-based discrimination. The Hotel Georgia is being ousted by its employees through their Unite Here Local 40 union for failing to deal with ongoing complaints from female hospitality workers. The union shared a media advisory yesterday for a press conference at the hotel in protest today, but She Bites found out this morning that the live action has been abruptly canceled, so both parties can attempt a resolution. Michelle Travis, media relations for the union, says all of our concerns will be addressed over a 10-day period. We are hopeful they will address our serious concerns. The Hotel Georgia has been a flagship on West Georgia Street since it opened in May 7th of 1927. BC Liberal MLAs are fervently attending pro-life events across the province and have been busy spreading their rhetoric on reproductive legislation for some time. Lori Thrones and House Leader Mary Polak engaged in a God and Government conference held on May 4th, hosted by the hardcore conservative Alliance for Reform Political Action Canada, which has been organizing events since the late 2000s. Thrones confirmed his attendance to an email to a Star News journalist stating, "I am pro-life from conception to natural death. I don't condemn women or demand laws to limit their rights. I call for love, which in the long run is much more powerful than the law." Meanwhile, Polak stated that pro-life believers are a strong part of the Liberal Party at an ARPA event last year.
You know what? Pro-life people are actually a pretty important part of our party and a pretty important part of our support. And we need to be listening to the concerns that they have.
Given the dire state of women's reproductive legislation in the U.S., politicians across Canada are being forced to clarify their stance on abortion. Just last month, Conservative Party leader Andrew Scheer said he would not reopen the debate when asked if he would allow MPs to introduce abortion laws. Last month, BC Liberal leader Rich Coleman spoke at an anti-abortion protest in Victoria, where fellow members compared the procedure to the Holocaust. Canada hasn't had abortion legislation since 1988, when the Supreme Court ruled against a failed attempt by Brian Mulroney's Conservative government in 1991. In 2007, the ARPA was formed with a coalition members from BC, Alberta, and Ontario who launched a We Need a Law campaign with the hope to uphold preborn human rights to the greatest degree possibly federally, provincially, and through the courts. Is the Catholic Church the only religious institution to cover up sexual abuse? I asked a Catholic Church abuse survivor and anti-institution abuse advocate, Leona Huggins, whether she thinks the toxicity and cover-ups exist across all religions and churches. This is what she had to say.
Absolutely. Predators are attracted to places where they can work with children and where they have some kind of power. It isn't about sex, it's about power. And so, and in religion, in religious places, you get power over people. You get power over adults, you get power over children. And that's where the harm can be. There's a lot of power in it, a lot of power. You tell people what to believe, you tell people how to believe.
Leona was 13 when she was groomed and sexually abused by a priest who was charged, went to prison for 10 months in 1992, then after being released, served out of an Ottawa parish. A report says women are speaking up more at work, but are facing more retaliation. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission reported that sexual harassment complaints rose 13.6% last year, while 3/4 include a charge of retaliation. Those numbers, again, are always lower than the factual numbers because of course, 95% or more of women still are not reporting their sexual abuse. The EEOC received 7,609 sexual harassment complaints during the last fiscal year, and even though general reports of workplace harassment declined, the data actually shows that sexual harassment specific cases are on the rise. Director of Opportunity Centers United, Saru Jayaram, says training retooling efforts can only get employees so far without the redistribution of power. She says, quote, you can know you have rights and know you're being harassed, but if you have no power on the job to do anything about it, it really makes no difference. Well, these have been your major Me Too news up to noon. Please stay tuned for today's commentary. Ever wonder what would happen if you were to report your sexual abuse to your work or workplace? Did you know that somewhere buried in the employment contract that you sign, there is likely a clause that says if you bring forward sexual harassment complaint, you will be forced into an arbitration meeting. In that forced arbitration meeting, you will be defending yourself and making your claim in front of your company, your union, and get this, the person you made a sexual abuse complaint about. This is all orchestrated by your company and also likely your union. One way to deal with this is by staging a walkout in solidarity with your fellow workers, like the folks who work at Google. They did this last November, where they were successful in ending a mandatory arbitration for sexual harassment claims within Google. However, they reported significant punishment and targeting for their protests, to which the company alleges that they never did. New York State also has banned mandatory arbitration for sexual harassment claims under a law that passed in April of 2018. I hope, like so many other women that I know, will continue to agitate the status quo and show up in solidarity with one another to end the barbaric use of forced arbitration meetings at the workplace. Well, these have been your Me Too news up to noon. I'm glad we got here more or less on time today. Thanks very much for tuning in. And be sure to tune in tomorrow for another warm dish of She Bites Daily. Until then, survive, disobey, and document.